I believe Jim disconnected.
Did you?
I disconnected
Okay.
and now I'm recording.
So
Yeah,
for the
that piece was
recording,
disconnecting. Yeah.
okay, for the recording, all three commissioners, Hernandez, Cressy, and Swain are present. Lansgoff is physically present. Also on the telecom is Charles Holliday, Adam Lasker. Present in the room is Jim Allen. Also, public guests, Eric Coomer of Dominion, Nicole Nillette of Dominion. The meeting began at 6:01 p.m. The commissioners are all by phone, and we're at the point of discussion, consideration of the agenda, and have added that we encourage the public to attend the meeting, and it is in the executive director's office at this time, and the executive director is present. In the future, there's discussion about if none of the board members or the executive director is present, then it will be discussion on how and if the public would need to dial in. We've added the audio recording of this meeting, and that's where we're at this point in time. Consideration of the agenda.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, so the first item under emergency business is adoption of new employee policies in light of the COVID-19 coronavirus public health emergency, including but not limited to a telework policy allowing necessary personnel to work remotely. Who will expound on this a little bit?
Adam volunteers if no one else does.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so yesterday afternoon, the board's human resources director, Lucretia Dandridge, circulated amongst us all a policy that she has modified from the city of Chicago's emergency policy, and she's just tweaked it to match the board styles and types of employees we have and so forth. It is a policy that would allow our employees to work from home through remote access with our laptop computers and have access to their emails. It actually goes against the board's current policy, but of course these are emergency times. This would be a policy that we would then lift as soon as the coronavirus public health emergency has gone away, so to speak. And therefore, some people could still get work done from home. This, of course, would only be for the kinds of work that can be done from home. And later in the agenda, we're going to talk about the kinds of things that still have to get done and that we do need people present to continue operations. But for all other aspects, it would let people go home. And also, of course, it includes allowing high-risk employees to be excused from their duties and replaced with others who could fill in for them, especially for non-necessary, non-essential personnel. Those who are over the age of 60, those with underlying health conditions that make them more susceptible to higher risk, and those who have children, I think the determined 12 months or younger at home. And I do recommend the policy, even though we're going to continue working, and we'll discuss that in several ways we're going to continue working. But for those who can go home, we really, and for those that are at a higher risk, we should let them go home, and then the flexibility to do a little work there if they can.
Are there any questions? Okay. Hearing none.
Commissioner Cressy, just would like to say for the record that in light of the mayor's recent statement that in accordance with that, anyone who is high risk or anyone who is feeling sick at all is been ordered to stay at home.
That is correct. That's an order from the mayor's office, so yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to adopt the policy, the employee policy, regarding the COVID-19 emergency, including but not limited to the telework policy?
So moved, Commissioner Cressy.
Is there a second?
So second, Commissioner Swain.
All those in favor?
Aye. Cressy votes aye.
Okay. Motion
Swain votes
passes. Okay, thank you. Next item, we'll skip to C, the board action to close its offices, suspend election operations, and allow board employees to work remotely to the extent such as possible in light of the COVID-19 coronavirus, and directing the executive director to send notice of same to the Illinois State Board of Elections and the chief judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County.
Madam Chair, can I ask that we Adam, and this might, in light of conversation we've had previously, could we maybe go to D, E, and F, and come back to B and C, because it seems to me that B and C are directly correlated.
Yes.
Or directly connected.
Okay. If there is, Commissioner Cressy, do you have any objections to that?
No objection to moving B and C to the end of part
Okay.
4 of the agenda.
Thank you. We will proceed with subsection D, board action authorizing that until COVID-19 public health emergency has subsided, all meetings of the board may be conducted with remote participation without the need for in-person attendance in accordance with the governor's executive order 2020-07. Mr. Lasker.
Yes, thank you. So Section 6 of that executive order, which was entered on March 16th, does lift some of the Open Meetings Act requirements, specifically the requirement that members of the public body must be physically present. That entire limitation has been suspended. And then the conditions of, and that's, by the way, from Section 2.01 of the Open Meetings Act, also lifted are the conditions in Section 7 that limits when participation by remote access is permitted. Under the Open Meetings Act, it's only if you are literally out of town for business or a medical emergency or on the business of the board. With this condition being lifted, then any of the commissioners can participate remotely, all three of them, even though they're not out of town on business or otherwise unavailable. So
Okay.
I would say also the public bodies are encouraged to allow the public to participate. So if there's not someone, as we've discussed, if there's not someone there to have the meeting be physically located in the office, then we shouldn't allow the public to call in and speak during the public comment through the teleconference or video conference or however we end up doing.
Okay, thank you. My only comment is in order to, if you want to do this board action, that's fine. I do think that the governor's executive order allows us to have remote participation, but any other comments? If not,
My only comment is, Adam, is we talked about with public participation. Are we going to, on the notice, post the call-in number and all that? People can call in?
That's, I believe, the spirit of cooperation with the governor's recommendation here. It's not a requirement. His order expressly says that this is encouraged, not required. But that would probably be the best way to do it. Yes.
Commissioner Cressy here. Likewise, we make provisions that a recording of the session be made and posted.
right,
Yes.
we will do that. Okay, are there any other questions? If not, is there a motion to authorize the board's action that consistent with the governor's executive order?
Madam Chair, just before you do that, just one quick question. I know that we do take attendance at meetings and who's there, and we list them on the minutes. So my question to you, Adam, is that a requirement? Is that something we do? Because if that's a requirement, then I would think that we might have to basically put an email address on the notice to say if you want to participate, email this email address and we'll give you the call-in number so we can keep a record of who's logging in.
As far as who the public is, that's not a lawful requirement. The Open Meetings Act does require the roll call of the board members, and that has to be made in the minutes. However, in keeping with board policy, I think that would be a reasonable recommendation. Either way.
Yeah, I think the staff, Trish and Adam can coordinate on all of that to make access available, easy and available.
Right, so if you put on the notice, if you put an email address saying, if you wish to participate, please email us and we'll email you the contact information, something like that.
So we need to
Right.
get everybody's
That
phone
would be,
number.
that would be good, yes.
Commissioner Cressy, just tip on the language. Don't say participate because that makes it sound like they want to make public comment. Just if you wish to attend electronically.
Well,
There
they're
you go.
entitled still to make public comments in the public comment section.
That's correct. I just don't want people not to listen in if they think they're going to have to make a public comment. It's just a wording thing. But yes, they would still be entitled to public comment. True.
Okay.
Yes, but attendance, public attendance at the meeting is a fine way of stating it because you have to attend our normal meetings to speak publicly anyway.
Quick question, is there is there a law or something that we need to keep everybody's phone numbers that call in?
No, there's no such requirement.
The question is whether or not this conference call system generates a log at the end of the call, listing all the phone numbers that called in.
I don't know that.
On the one hand, if such a list is created and stored by us, I would say that those are most likely people's personal telephone numbers and they would be exempt from FOIA disclosure of the list.
All right.
They'd be
Okay.
redacted as
Right.
someone.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no further questions, is there a board action authorized that consistent with the governor's executive order 2020-07 that the board meetings may be conducted by remote? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Cressy. Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Is there a second?
Second by Commissioner Cressy.
All those in favor?
Aye, Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
I have Commissioner Swain is making the motion.
Passes, and I apologize, but I have, for some reason, the house phone on, and there's a message. The next item on the agenda is the board action to allow that all non-essential staff of the board be immediately sent home with pay, and that any other staff who can conduct their work from home be encouraged to do so with pay until the COVID-19 public health emergency has subsided.
So this is Adam, and if I may comment on that. At this time of the election cycle, the only real urgent matter is to canvass the results of Tuesday's primary and proclaim them within 21 days. And there are other aspects of election administration that can easily be suspended, at least for a while. That would include that we will be receiving new voter registration applications and changes of address. We will be receiving applications for mail-in ballots for the November general election. Things like that, we can let those applications build up for a bit, particularly because now that we're done with the primary, there's a little bit of a drop-off in that activity. And, there's nothing that would, spoil or go rotten and be voided out in terms of an application either to vote, to change an address, or for a mail-in ballot. Clearly, we have plenty of time to deal with applications for mail-in ballots. So after discussions with Lance and Joan and Lucretia and managers and so forth, we do believe that there are many ways in which we could relieve staff from having to come to downtown Chicago during this epidemic without interfering with the ongoing need to try to get the canvass completed.
But, some staff can work from home, but we still have, we just got delivered 22,000 absentee ballots that we need to process and put in the system.
Yes, and those are part of the canvass. So I'm saying
Right.
that, we still need to move forward with the employees who are necessary for the canvass.
Gotcha.
But when it comes to the things essentially related to November, we have time to let those employees go home, self-quarantine. Hopefully this virus will dissipate, and at that point they can come back and just do some catch-up work on, fulfilling voter registrations and mail-in ballot applications for November.
Okay.
So Adam, this is Charles. Here at the warehouse, where we haven't received all the equipment carriers from these polling places. So we're saying that the staff here needs to be here. Is that correct?
I do believe warehouse staff plays a major role in the canvass, and of course, part of that also includes the trucking companies that bring back our ballots and scanners, which will be needed. We need to run at least 5% of those ballots and machines for the retabulation, and we need them for write-in votes, and they're definitely a part of the canvass. Now, we're going to talk under item C, I suppose, about the possibility of moving to a skeleton crew as much as possible. But I do think that we need to consider that we have to get our cans back and our ballots back and use those in the canvass. Yes.
So Adam, this is Commissioner Swain. Can we say that the determination of essential or non-essential is made by the executive director?
Absolutely. I do think that if we give him that authority here, he's the one best situated, working with the rest of his staff, to make the determinations as to who precisely is necessary for the canvass and who is not.
Okay.
Right.
Commissioner Christie, I would agree with that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding this? If not, is there a motion to allow that all non-essential staff of the board, and this would be through the executive director, the executive director's determination, be immediately sent home with pay, and that any other staff who can conduct their work from home be encouraged to do so with pay until the COVID-19 public health emergency has subsided.
Commissioner Christie, so moved.
Is there a second?
Swain, second. Commissioner Swain, seconds.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor?
Commissioner Christie votes aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the board action to confirm that the board shall meet with remote participation at least once a week during the COVID-19 health emergency to reassess the situation and take any additional action related thereto.
So again, if I may, this is Adam. This is just essentially, we want to put you guys on notice. We think we should have a meeting at least once a week with all this stuff going on. I want to take an opportunity to remind you that we can call special meetings under the Open Meetings Act with 48 hours notice. We can call these kinds of emergency meetings with no notice, essentially, although we provide as much notice as feasibly possible, and that is in full compliance with the letter of the law and the Open Meetings Act. And so we would request that you commissioners do make yourselves available at least once a week. And obviously, we have no real concerns about this, but here we are at 6 o'clock on an emergency call, and thank you for that.
No problem. Are there any questions or concerns to be expressed about this? If not, is there a motion to confirm that the board shall meet, if necessary, with remote participation at least once a week during this health emergency to reassess the situation and take any additional action it needs to?
Motion by Commissioner Swain.
Is there a second?
Second by Commissioner Christie.
All those in favor?
Commissioner Christie votes aye.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Motion passes. We will now return to the proposed adoption of a new employee policies in light of the COVID-19 coronavirus public health emergency. including but not limited to a telework policy allowing necessary personnel to work remotely.
We did that. Madam Chair, we
Madam
actually,
Chair, Madam
that's
Chair, we,
A, and we did that.
This
Oh,
was
I'm
originally
sorry.
B.
We're looking at,
We're B and C. B and C.
Yes.
The next item would be the passage of a resolution to be memorialized in writing at a later date in support of the General Counsel's interpretation of the statutory 21-day deadline for the canvass and proclamation of election results, that it is directory and not mandatory. Mr. Lasker?
at this time, I'm not asking the board to pass any such resolution, but it's on the agenda,
Okay.
and that opens up for discussion. I just want to explain what I'm saying there is that in the event that this virus ends up making it so we cannot finish within 21 days, there is no penalty and provision in the election code that says that any of the ballots, the votes, or the results would be spoiled or invalidated in any way. So we're going to try our very best under these circumstances to meet that 21-day deadline. But a part of the problem is that we're supposed to be doing social distancing. We might need to spread things out, and we're searching for space within the building that could be available for that. In the event that things get slowed down a little bit, I just want the board to understand that it is my legal opinion that if we finish on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th day, that should be just fine. I will also point out that the same statutes, Article 22 of the Election Code, they place a 31-day deadline on the State Board of Elections, where it receives from all the election authorities throughout the state the results for elections that are in the jurisdiction of more than one election authority. They have 10 days after our 21-day deadline to get all that stuff delivered. So we could even have some wiggle room of 5 or 6 days, and the state board would still have plenty of time, I would believe, to compile those results. They don't have to do the work that the election authorities do. They just have to take our numbers, add them together, and then put their documents out. So I just want the board to be on notice that we're going to try the best we can to meet that 21-day deadline. If this virus causes us to slow down a little bit, we should have some wiggle room without disrupting the state board's duties, and also, of course, without invalidating anything from our election results. Nobody will be disenfranchised.
Okay,
But I'm not asking for action on that. That's just a public resuscitation of my legal opinion.
Okay, Adam, this is Charles. When you talk about the social distancing, far as the canvas, we thought about where we may have to use 3 different rooms. The lower level conference room, the 8th floor conference room, as well as the public viewing area.
That is correct. We've had those conversations, and thank you, Mr. Holliday, because I know you've been working hard on a lot of things, and you've been looking into that. I would frankly say there's also the possibility of moving some of our equipment from downtown out to the warehouse, if that would allow us to spread out. There's nothing that would require us to stay in the basement of 69 West Washington. Under these circumstances, we need to do whatever we can just to try to keep, rooms under 50 people and people 6 feet apart.
Yeah, okay. Any
So,
other
Adam,
questions or comments?
I do want to make a comment on this. So I'm of the opinion that, with all due respect to our esteemed General Counsel, I'm of the opinion that if we're going to make a determination that 21 days is not sufficient, one of 2 things has to happen. One, either we need to have a judge tell us that's okay, or 2, we need to have facts that lead us, a fact pattern that leads us to explain why in our best efforts that we're trying to get to 21 days, we're not able to get to 21 days because of the I don't want to say impediments, but because of the controls put on by the federal government. I understand that your estimation of the code says it's directory and not compulsory, but I cannot think of, and I don't know of any examples of when the 21 days has not been met, and so therefore I think it would be incumbent upon us to make sure that if we were to go past that, it's either because of some federal guideline that prevents us from getting 21 days done, or we have a judge take a look at that and give us some ruling on that. So that's my opinion. I just wanted to make sure I say that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Swain. And if I may, I just want to say I share that opinion. At this point, we're going to move forward with the 21-day deadline being the goal. If we get so far along that it starts to look like we're not going to meet the goal, then the circuit court is still open for emergency litigation, and I do believe it would qualify as an emergency for us to seek an emergency declaratory judgment and perhaps even a restraining order similar to the ones we just received on moving, allowing the early voting sites to stay open late, allowing us to move out of the nursing home voting and switch that over to vote by mail. We can certainly do that when the time comes, and Commissioner Swain, if that time were to come, we then, of course, would have plenty of facts to include in the pleadings, facts about what we have done to keep moving, facts about what have been the challenges that have slowed us down. So if and when that time comes, we will seek legal action on a declaratory judgment. But I don't think we're there yet, and I'm not asking this board to make an official finding on it at this time. I just wanted to share my opinion to put, so that there's communication about how things might end up if we can't meet the 21-day deadline.
And that's fair. And let me just add one other point. On the flip side of that, I think as we go into section item number 3 about election operation, I want to say emphatically that we need to structure our operations as such that it does not violate the federal recommendations that have been laid out in terms of social distancing, in terms of number of people in a room, and all those kind of things. So I think it's important that we adhere to those as we are trying to finish this 21-day process.
And this is Adam. My very minor response to that is that not only are those federal guidelines, but they've also been adopted by the Illinois Department of Health. So they're also state guidelines, and we're certainly going to do everything we can to comply.
Great.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? If not, is there a motion to...
No motion on item B, Madam Chair.
Oh,
we don't need
okay.
That was this discussion only. We'll pass item B on the agenda and move to item C, which is the last item that we have not yet addressed.
Okay. And the item C deals with the possibility of action to close the board offices, suspend election operations, and allow board employees to work remotely to the extent such as possible in light of COVID-19, and directing the executive director send notice of same to the Illinois State Board of Elections and the Chief Judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County. Mr. Lasker?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry to monopolize the meeting, but it just so happens to be full of legal issues. What we are requesting here, as I've previously alluded to, is there are certain aspects of election operations that are not essential at this point in time in regards to the November general election, those being registration applications, address updates, mail-in ballot applications, and so forth. We will continue to receive them, but we should give some time off to the people for self-isolation who do that kind of work, and again focus on the only real necessary election operation at the moment being the canvass of the March 17th primary. So I think the motion here would be to authorize the executive director to send his employees home to the extent as possible to those non-essential at this moment election operations, including registration applications and vote by mail applications, all related to November.
So Adam, I just want to clarify, you're suggesting that this motion should be not suspend election operations, but suspend non-essential election operations. Is that correct?
That is one way of saying it, yes. And of course, then I would work with the executive director on drafting a letter to the State Board of Elections and the Chief Judge just to put them on notice that for things like registration and mail-in applications for November, we have time to wait on that for a bit in light of the health concerns for our employees. And that letter would also, of course, inform those agencies that we are moving forward with the canvass as scheduled.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Commissioner Cressy, I'm just wondering, our people have been working for very long hours, our canvas people included. Can we shut down the canvas just for a few days to give them some rest and a temporary stoppage, and then just suspend it for a few days and then possibly bring it back online next week sometime?
We're closing down we're closing down Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're starting back again Monday.
Okay.
So, I do want everybody to know, I've spoken with legal counsel for County Clerk Yarborough, and they've informed me that that's the same plan. You know, they don't work weekends, but they're giving people Friday off, in addition to the weekends that they don't work. So, we would be giving our people 3 days off. They give their people 1 day off, but we still can follow the same schedule, because, well, we usually work weekends anyway, but we can still get it done if that were the decision to be made. And
Go ahead, Lance.
well, that was Adam. The last thing I would say is this was an excruciatingly difficult election for employees, so a weekend off could be good for them, I suppose. Thank you.
Right. Absolutely.
The Commissioner Cressy again, and I know I've sent these charts to Lance and Adam and some others. I have been, you know, because I'm an academic geek, I have been tracking the numbers of reported cases in Illinois since March 6th, and as of today, actually as of yesterday, we're in the exponential growth area, and if this continues, the report on Sunday will have over 1,000 cases. Monday probably over, we'll have about 1,400 by Monday or Tuesday. I'm wondering if we should possibly revisit this at the end of Sunday night in case we want to extend that suspension of the canvass if these numbers get out of hand, or if by that time other governmental entities have ordered, say, a shelter in place.
You know, Commissioner Cressy, wouldn't the motion address that? Because the motion is to close the offices, suspend non-essential election operations, but it leaves it to the discretion of the executive director. So I think depending on the circumstances, I think the executive director would have discretion and authority to determine how long to suspend election operations.
Okay, I'll go along with that. And I think when we get to the last item, my favorite item on any agenda, adjournment, we adjourn again at the call of the chair and consider that if matters change significantly, including other governmental entities placing restrictive orders, that we should definitely meet in emergency session to consider that change in situation.
And this is Adam. I guarantee you that Lance and Charles and myself and Joan and Jim and the rest of us are going to be closely monitoring the developments as the weekend goes on. We can continue to be in touch with each other through email and telephone, and just stand at the ready if there's another emergency meeting needed for Sunday. But in the meantime, I agree with the chairwoman that it's also within the executive director's discretion in the motion that's on the table, or at least the discussion for the motion on the table.
Commissioner Cressy, I can go along with that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for the board to close its offices, suspend non-essential election operations, and allow board employees to work remotely to the extent such as possible in light of the COVID-19 virus, and directing the executive director send notice of same to the Illinois State Board of Elections and the Chief Judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County?
Commissioner Cressy, so moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Okay. All those in favor?
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Do we have any public comment?
No
Okay,
request for public comment.
Thank you, Trish. Any other questions from the board or the staff? If
None.
not, okay. is there a motion to adjourn at the call of the chair?
So moved, Commissioner Cressy.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Swain.
All those in favor?
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Swain votes aye.
Motion passes and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.